At 5:18 along the outskirts of Avdiivka on the Donetsk front line, the still dawn shattered as a storm of FPV and TB2 strike drones swept in, backed by cruise missiles fired from a Russian corvette offshore. The drones streaked in from every angle, targeting ammo dumps and lookout posts near the key rail berms. This was no probing raid. It was a deliberate, synchronized assault meant to blind Ukrainian sensors and choke off resupply, threatening the entire northern defense belt. In seconds, tracer fire carved the sky and frantic radio calls filled the air. The multi-domain battle had begun. Ukrainian defenses snapped into action. Moments after the first detonations, NASAMS crews along the Avdiivka perimeter began cycling their fire control radars on and off, confusing enemy targeting systems while tracking the loitering UAVs. Overhead, Su-30 fighters climbed to 20,000 feet, scanning for the thermal signatures of incoming cruise missiles. On the ground, recon squads loosed a salvo of javelins from shattered warehouses, catching advancing Russian armor half a mile out. To the right flank, Ukrainian drone operators hunted exposed launch trucks, while unmanned ground vehicles probed rail embankments and cleared mines, allowing motorcycle-mounted infantry to dart forward. Each element, air defense, fighter cover, precision missiles, ground raiders, wove together into a living shield around the town. Reports of multiple attack waves poured into the forward command post, where officers plotted every flash on digital maps and issued fresh fire missions in seconds. Recognizing the scale of the assault, headquarters ordered a relief column forward. Leopard 2 main battle tanks, Bradley fighting vehicles, and U.S. maintenance crews staged west of town rolled toward the key highway overpass 6 miles away. The distant rumble of engines carried across the fields like a steel heartbeat, signaling American armor was on the move. What began as a sudden drone strike had now drawn in multinational firepower, setting the stage for a larger clash. Convoys of American flagged supply trucks funneled down the highway while heavy rail unloaded tracked armor 6 miles west of Avdiivka. Leopard 2s rolled out of camouflage staging areas, their crews running. Last-minute checks as Paladin self-propelled howitzers unlimbered and began dry-firing their routines. Mechanics worked under tarps, swapping transmissions and tightening track links. Fuel trucks pumped JP-8 into bladder tanks until the gauges read full. The effect was immediate. Russian planners, expecting a drawn-out harassment fight, suddenly faced a mechanized counterweight. They responded by pounding forward, positions with tube artillery while reallocating, drones and missile strikes to interdict the new supply corridors feeding Ukraine's western flank. Ukraine answered by turning mobility into firepower. HIMARS batteries shifted positions at dusk, firing guided rockets to sever likely interdiction routes and blind rear area repair hubs. Vilka M launchers hidden under tree lines suppressed rail junctions and staging areas, creating lethal gaps in Russian logistics. Along the convoy axis, electronic warfare teams deployed mobile jammers and decoy emitters, denying Russian gunners clean, targeting data and feeding false tracks into their fire control nets. The result was a battlefield of deception. Drones that looked like attack groups, but carried only countermeasures, radio beacons that mimicked supply convoys, and smoke laid to mask real movements. Overhead, NATO and Ukrainian surveillance aircraft circled, stitching together a layered picture of the battlefield. Su-30 escorts established control lanes, ready to intercept strike aircraft. On the ground, forward observers embedded with infantry passed corrections for artillery fire in under a minute. Motorcycle recon teams darted along farm tracks, confirming bridge load capacities and unmasking minefields. Their reports shifted entire battalion plans. What had begun as reactive defense was morphing into deliberate provocation. Each side probed the other's seams. Ukraine testing, Russian patience and sensor coverage, Russia searching for weaknesses in the growing NATO-Ukrainian logistics chain. Nightly mechanics and medics worked in parallel, reconditioning armor and preparing evacuation lanes. The brigade was no longer just arriving. It was being forged into a maneuver tool, every convoy mile and every jammed signal a stroke in the larger plan. Under a low clinging fog the next night, Ukrainian motorcycle reconnaissance units surged forward, perfectly timed with a screen of deception laid down by TB2-style UAVs and FPV, strike-craft painting false thermal signatures 300 yards ahead. Their loitering patterns and bursts of smoke forced Russian sensors to commit to ghosts. As the pillowed smoke drifted along a drainage ditch, motorcycle teams, light, fast, and armored only by grit, threaded gap roads at 30 on MF, slipping through lanes the drones had opened. Their mission was surgical. Pin down a lightly manned outpost and reveal the gun line nearby. Overhead, Su-30s held station at 15,000 feet, their presence deterring Russian strike aircraft. Embedded drone teams called fire for effect. As the motorcycles reached the berm, Javelin teams hidden in ruined farmhouses struck an APC creeping into the zone. 2 miles back, a Paladin battery opened fire, its short, precise salvos hammering the defender's flank. Unmanned ground vehicles swept the embankment, sniffing for mines and clearing choke points for following infantry. The assault was a choreography of speed, drone decoys to distract, motorcycles to close, javelins and artillery to smash armor, UGVs to keep routes clear. It lasted barely an hour but yielded valuable intelligence, enemy radio calls, repair routes, and even a command node flushed into the open. Russian commanders were forced to reposition a platoon and reassign drones for weeks. Ukraine paid for the raid with calculated restraint. Wounded were evacuated along pre-planned corridors. Prisoners collected and treated. Civilians warned and sheltered. It was not a strategic pivot but a scalpel strike, carving an opportunity for heavier formations to exploit. The Russian response was swift. Before sunrise, radar tracks over the Sea of Azov confirmed a new missile. Flotilla had fired a spread of caliber cruise missiles toward Ukrainian logistics hubs and firing positions used the night before. The seaborne barrage arrived in tight waves, warheads streaking inland at near supersonic speed. NASAMS. Cruise and Su-30 escorts shifted instantly from support to intercept. Simultaneously, Russian 152mm artillery and mortars lit up Avdiivka's northern and western arcs, while BMP-borne infantry advanced under the barrage, seeking to push Ukrainian lines into the urban core. Mobile EW teams followed, blanketing the airwaves in noise. But every jamming pulse also revealed their position, and Ukrainian counter-battery radars answered with precision fires. The duel escalated across every layer of the battle space. Bayraktar TB2s and smaller FPVs threaded through missile lanes, spotting launch sites for counterstrikes. Motorcycle scouts relayed grid fixes for Javelin and Stugna crews, while repair teams refueled Leopards under fire. Paladins shifted from counter-battery to area denial, buying precious minutes. By midnight, what had been a trench-line clash had become a theater-wide slugging match of sea, sky, and cyber. Fresh reconnaissance at dawn mapped every Russian gun flash and missile trail. Using those coordinates, Ukraine launched a full-scale counteroffensive designed to retake the initiative. HIMARS crews opened with precision salvos, smashing mortar pits and EW vans in seconds. Vilka M launchers sent deep penetrating warheads into supply depots, forcing Russian artillery to fall silent. TB2 drones dove through the smoke, hitting repair yards and ammo trucks mid-move. Leopard 2 formations advanced in bounding pairs, each tank covering the next. Paladins dropping suppression rounds to widen the breach. Motorcycle teams spearheaded the push through side streets and drainage lanes, slipping behind Russian lines to mark command posts and anti-tank crews. NASAMS batteries and Su-30 fighters patrolled overhead, denying Russian aircraft any opportunity to interfere. EW squads deepened the disruption, blacking out Russian command nets and leaving frontline troops to fight on stale orders. Ukrainian staff received real-time drone feeds, pivoting fire missions in minutes. The battle became a test of endurance. Fuel convoys braved shell-scarred roads to keep the Leopards running. Medics and engineers cleared rubble and ferried the wounded. By midday, the counteroffensive had driven a wedge several miles wide. Humanitarian corridors stayed open even under fire, proof that preserving life remained a priority. By nightfall, Ukrainian units had pulled back to a new perimeter 3 miles beyond Avdiivka, fortifying with sand barriers and wire obstacles. Convoys brought in shells, diesel, and spare track links. Field workshops sprang up in abandoned warehouses, welding and swapping power packs through the night. U.S. Tech detachments reinforced the maintenance hubs, bringing diagnostic gear and fire control modules to keep Western systems combat ready. Russian forces, too, regrouped, launching drones to hunt for repair yards and fuel bladders. Sporadic rockets probed the strength of Ukraine's new shield. The fight had become a war of endurance, a struggle to harden supply routes and reset for the next clash. The Avdiivka campaign ended with a clear tactical win for the Ukraine-NATO partnership. Russian supply hubs were crippled, several heavy vehicles destroyed, and Moscow forced to pull brigades back into tighter defenses, likely slowing future offensives. At 2:17 a.m. deep inside Kiev's hidden airfields, the night was deceptively calm. Then Ukrainian drones roared off the strip, followed by HIMARS and Storm Shadow launches arcing skyward. This was more than a raid, it was a layered strike, aimed at Russia's forward buffer in Belgorod. Inside Kiev's hardened command bunker, maps and satellite feeds lit the operations floor. Drones skimmed 150 feet above rivers and tree lines, their propeller hum fading as heavier ATACMS missiles roared north. Slamming into depots outside Belgorod, fireballs lit the sky, fuel tanks ignited, rotor blades twisted in the heat. Entire stockpiles detonated in chain reactions visible for miles. Ukraine knew retaliation was coming. Patriot PAC-3 batteries went active, ready to intercept missiles fired from the Black Sea. One by one, interceptors roared skyward, detonating incoming warheads and showering debris. For once, it was Russia's turn to watch its missiles fail. On the ground, Ukrainian snipers infiltrated Belgorod's outskirts, ambushing convoys and dropping a regimental commander with a single shot. Moscow answered with more cruise missiles and even a Yasen-class submarine strike. The war now stretched across air, land, and sea. By dawn, Belgorod was an inferno. Radars gone, helipads burning, ammo depots cratered. The once secure city had become a frontline battlefield. Ukraine shifted its focus northward toward Voronezh, Russia's critical logistics hub. At dawn, swarms of Ukrainian drones flooded the sky, some jamming radars, others carrying explosives to destroy air defense sites. Autonomous robots laid anti-tank mines along approach routes. Behind them, T-84. Tanks advanced in wedge formation with motorcycle squads darting between cover, their mission to cut reinforcements and pin Russian defenses. Above, MiG-29s and Su-27s armed with JDAMs dropped GPS-guided bombs on fuel depots, igniting secondary explosions. But Russia was ready. S-400s and Pantsir systems opened fire, filling the sky with tracers. Su-35 fighters scrambled and soon dogfights erupted. Newly delivered Ukrainian F-16s joined the fray, trading missiles and cannon fire in a deadly ballet. One F-16 shot down a Su-35 with an AIM-120, but a Ukrainian MiG-29 was lost moments later. Voronezh shook with the combined fury of tanks, robots, drones, and jets. The rear city had become the centerpiece of a modern battlefield. Ukraine's next phase was to blind Russia's eyes. Electronic warfare brigades deployed across eastern Ukraine, their antennas unleashing waves of interference. Within minutes, Russian cruise missiles veered off course or crashed. GPS signals warped into static. Through this artificial fog, Ukrainian drones slipped deeper into Russian airspace. Radar screens in Voronezh filled with phantom echoes, forcing operators to guess what was real. Russia scrambled an A-50 early warning aircraft to regain control, but minutes later, a Ukrainian ATACMS missile smashed its supporting airfield, igniting fuel depots and collapsing hangars. With nowhere to land, the A-50 was forced to retreat south. Russia's radar grid buckled, leaving dead zones through which Ukrainian UAV swarms streamed unchallenged, pushing closer to Moscow. By 2:45 a.m., long-range drones skimmed low over the Oka River, carrying 100 lb explosive payloads. APCs halted at staging points as autonomous combat robots deployed, scurrying forward to punch holes in Russian defenses and map enemy fire for incoming forces. Behind them, Ukrainian special forces infiltrated farmland, planting mines under bridges and setting demolition charges along culverts. Laser designators were unpacked, ready to mark high-value targets. Moscow scrambled its defenses. Pantsir systems on rooftops opened fire, tracers arching across the night sky like orange comets. Sirens wailed. Residents woke to the thunder of gunfire and explosions at the city's edge. Some drones were intercepted, but others slipped through gaps, diving between high-rise towers and detonating in fuel depots and checkpoints. Black smoke curled above the skyline, visible from the Kremlin. For the first time in modern history, Moscow's perimeter was breached not by tanks, but by machines flying just above the treetops. At 3:12 a.m., the first explosions ripped through central Moscow. Kamikaze drones slammed into office towers and storage yards, fireballs rising hundreds of feet. Moments later, ATACMS missiles struck ammunition depots on the city's outer ring, shockwaves shattering windows across entire districts. Russian warships in the Black Sea fired back. But Patriot batteries intercepted most of the missiles. The night sky flickered with intercepts like fireworks. Panic spread through the streets. Residents live-streamed the chaos as highways jammed with cars fleeing the capital. For the first time, Moscow was not just a command center. It was a battlefield. The road to the Kremlin now stood exposed.